Alright, today's warm-up, and disregard that it says day 2, and no, my fingernail polish has still not come off for my daughter doing nail salon day, which, by the way, she raised the prices on me. She says I owe her $3 more, and then she wants to charge $5 to remove it. So my little 7-year-old economist is really hitting me hard. Uh, this stuff really never comes off. But anyways, so I wanted you to draw the 5 variations. Remember, PPF and PPC means the same thing: production possibility curve or production possibility frontier. So the first one was economic growth, and this was our first PPF. And if we shift it to the right, we always increase right, decrease left. So this economy could produce this much GDP. Now it can produce this much. Everything within that border or that frontier. Okay. On B, and just make sure you label everything clearly, because on any FRQ, I've graded FRQs for College Board in the summer. Like, you have to label everything, make it easy for them to find, and that makes it faster. If it looks good and looks organized, that makes the graders even more likely to award you points. So just be clean and organized on labeling everything. So we've got growth is A, reduction of GDP capacity is B. Remember, if we lose resources, people, technology, whatever, has a decrease, the opposite of fertilizer. So instead of growing, it shifts inward or to the left, which is a decrease. C was a straight line. Remember, that's linear or constant. That's a 1-to-1 trade-off, or over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1. And if you connect the dots, it'd make this straight line right here. This right here, D, is the one that bows outward, the law of increasing opportunity cost, because remember, all resources are not suited for the production of all goods and services. As we produce one item with the same resource, we give up the chance to make more and more of that other item. Okay, so that's the law of increasing opportunity cost. The decreasing opportunity cost is the one that bows inward. That was on E. That would be the opposite, is we get better and better with our resources for each one we make. Okay, and number 2, I try to write everything the same way College Board would. So when I write these out, this is how they speak. Draw a correctly labeled PPC with a movement from point A to point B. Label X and Y with consumer good A and B, which I didn't read my instructions correctly, so I put a Y and X for my 2 axes. And that should have been A and that should have been B, because I didn't follow instructions very well. So now, remember, a movement is going to be on the curve. So show the first allocation of production as point A. That was my point A of production. It doesn't matter where you put it, as long as it goes over here and shows A, and down here and shows B on the Y and X axis. And now it says create a decrease in production from point A to point B. So we're going to give up some of good A, which means that's going to decrease. And in order to get some more of good B, that's our opportunity cost. That's what we're giving up. So I'm going to label this as point A, this is point B. Make sure you have your arrow showing this movement along the curve, showing this increase from A to B. We're getting more of that one, and this decrease from A to B because we're getting less of that one. So now our new point of production is point B, and I have now satisfied correctly labeled. Okay? To College Board, that means you either have all of them or you have none of them. And that's not nice, it's not kind, there's no partial credit. Not my rules, that's just how it is. If you don't have all your labels and arrows on there, if you put GDP instead of GDP with the little R, your whole graph is wrong. Sorry, I know, but that's how it is. All right, PPC with 3 points: inefficient, efficient, and unattainable. And this is number 3 right here. Remember, inside the curve is inefficient, on the curve is efficient, and outside the curve is unattainable. Remember, unobtainium. We can't get to that. We can't make that much GDP. So if any of our full employment resource technologies are not fully employed, as in we're not using our resources, we don't have the best technology, not everyone has a job, we have unemployment, those would all be located in. Okay, and then the opposite for efficient means we're on the curve. And I just labeled that as an E. Sorry, that looks more like something from our alphabet. Okay, any questions so far? All making sense, hopefully, some review. Okay. Now for number 4, what are the 3 key assumptions for an economy that is operating at its full GDP capacity? And then write out the acronym and what each letter means. So this is number 4. I've got full employment, FE, resources and technology. The resources was our quality and quantity, and technology can be lots of things, right? healthcare, education, extra strong coffee, whatever it is that makes your workers more productive and better can be considered technology. Okay? Number 5, just straight up vocab or letters or symbols, and that's why I gave you this thing with all these as well, okay? Because I know it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. So long run LRAS is long run aggregate supply. If it's LRAS 1, then that's long run aggregate supply, but we have a new curve indicating some sort of shift, either an increase or decrease on that graph. Okay. Now GDP stands for gross domestic product. Remember, we can add up everything we spend or add up everything we earn as income, and we'll get to those a little bit later. If you see this little bitty R on here, that stands for real. So real GDP is GDP that has inflation subtracted. So anytime we look at something as being real, that means we have to subtract the inflation off of it. So if simply prices have gone up, that doesn't mean we made 10 more cars. If we made 10 cars this year and they cost 100 grand, and we made 10 more cars next year and it looked like 120 grand, did we make more cars? No. They just had a higher price. So that's the difference between GDP, which is nominal, and real GDP, which has inflation subtracted. Okay. PL stands for price level of the economy. YF is full employment level of GDP output. Y1 would be current level of GDP output. So on this graph, if we had YF right here, that would be our full employment. And that's where I got to. So I'm going to continue drawing these out as I go for you to see as well. See if that light makes a difference. No. Okay. So draw a correctly labeled long-run aggregate supply curve with full employment level as YF. So some people like to draw the whole graph at once, or you can go through here and mark them out as you go. So if I need to draw it with full employment label as YF, I can mark that one out and have it on here. Do it like a checklist on the FRQ. Okay. Price level labeled as PL. Good, I got that. And output labeled as real GDP. Okay, I got that one too. Now, show the effect of an increase in capital goods on the long run aggregate supply curve. So if we increase our capital, can we make just this much stuff, or can we make more? We can make more, can't we? So if we have low interest rates, that leads to borrowing, gross private investment. People will buy a new truck. They will add it to their fleet, hire a new driver, then they'll make more sales for moving items or shipping or whatever the business would be. Okay? So you'll see things like this on FRQs, where just to show the effect of an increase. And it doesn't tell you what to label it, but usually it would say something like label as Y1. And they'll give you an instruction, Y0, Y1, whatever it is. Okay? So in here, I'm going to show my new curve, long run aggregate supply 1. I'm going to show a rightward shift, which is an increase. I'm going to label my new long run supply curve as Y1, and I'm going to include my rightward shift right here. So this level of GDP, remember it starts at 0 right here and increases to the right. So at full employment, we could make this much. But if we add capital, new machines, new buildings, new places for people to work that were never there, then we can actually make more GDP than we could have before. This is economic growth. Okay? All right. So review on the 4 factors of production and 2 types of capital. That should actually be 3. Remember, we have land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So land is our natural resources. Labor is our people. Capital is what we just went over, as in real, financial, and human. So my 3 types of capital, I've got real, human, and financial. Okay, so those are my 3 types. This is also known as our capital stock. Now, what are the 3 types of capital included in our economy's capital stock? My God, I just said it right there. So I don't have to go over that again, do I? I just answered number 8. The 3 types are our real capital, which is physical capital, our human capital, and our financial capital. So financial capital purchases real capital. Okay. Now, what does it mean for an economy to have a positive net investment? I think I forgot to go over this last class. So if we have gross private investment is how we buy all of our capital, correct? So, if last year, do tools and machines and trucks wear out? Do they get flat tires? Do they have high miles? Do they need to be replaced? Have you seen our mail trucks in the United States? Have you heard one of them drive? They sound horrible, don't they? I mean, their brakes are squeaky, their suspension is bad, they're wobbling everywhere. Do you know those are made from a 1986 Chevrolet S10 frame? Yeah, those are 1986 models. Yeah, and they still are on the road. We need to replace them, don't we? Okay, so if we simply repair them over and over again instead of replacing them, the repairs aren't going to keep them up, are they? They're just going to keep breaking, correct? So that would not be a positive net investment. So if we fix all of our stuff or replace it to where it's better than it was, that would be a positive net investment for our economy, wouldn't it? And that would allow us to make more deliveries, make more GDP. But if the things are always broken, sitting on the road, the mail doesn't go through, does it? Okay, and mail is a service. It is a shipping cost. It is a business. Okay, and our post office is actually a separate business from the government. It's a whole nother thing to mess with. Okay, and I think it's going to be, I don't know, in the billions to replace all those trucks, those little mail trucks. So, anyways, that's what positive net investment would be. Okay, if we replace everything more or better than it was the previous year. If everything just breaks down, then we'd have negative net investment. Okay, all right. So hopefully all that makes sense. There's the answer key for that. I'll post this video up if you need to go back and review it. And